Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Chasing Dreams podcast with Charlie and Justin. We are on episode 107. We got a good lift in, and now we are set to come at you with this new episode.
Yes.
Yeah, man, good lift.
Absolutely.
Good training session. Well, actually, we have to kind of give context here that you and I have been recently for the past 4 or 5 days.
Full week.
Yeah,
6.
where we have been training together at the gym.
Yes.
So we did a couple sessions. Sporadically, you and I have done sessions at your house because you have a home gym set up, but you've actually physically came into the gym to get some good workouts in, which is nice for both of us and for Chad, who's our training partner. And it's nice to always so that's where you look at the fine line between understanding that you need to be consistent, but then also switching things up. And I think the same thing applies to atmosphere.
Yeah, I agree.
If you're in the same atmosphere for too long, things can get stale. That's like the one thing about my current training partner, Chad, is that he keeps things so interesting because he's so energetic. And that would be an understatement. So the training doesn't get stale necessarily. So I feel like you, and I don't want to put words in your mouth or feelings in your head, but when you train at your place alone, it has potential to get stale.
Oh, very much, right? Very, very stale. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know if I could pick up the people and put them in my home gym. I don't think I would need to go to a gym because I have everything and I can get good quality workouts. But it's more the people. It's more you and Chad and Jake and all the guys that are always there that help me stay focused. And so I'm going to use this time as a refocus.
Well, it's very ironic too, because I talked to so many people over the years and this is kind of the stigma that gyms get. Talk to so many people over the years that have a feeling of intimidation, or especially when they're inexperienced in a gym setting, and they want to learn to work out, or they want to relearn how to work out, like people who have trained previously or exercised for periods of time in their life and then had a down period where they didn't go to the gym and they want to get back in shape or whatever. And the irony is laced in the fact that those people that you think are intimidating, and the people that you think are going to be judgmental, and the people that you think are going to be condescending towards you, and all these other ideas that you have in your head of what it's going to be like when you go there, it's the complete opposite.
Right.
The people that you think are judgmental are the ones that are actually probably going to help you a lot and be your support system and encourage you. And I can't speak for every gym, because I'm sure that, I know for a fact, being in gyms my whole life, that every setting's different, but the gym that we train at, it's very open-doored in a sense. And I know that there are certain people that get fulfillment of being the best, which is awesome, but sometimes they do that at the expense of others. But that's very far and few between. I feel like the overwhelming majority of people there want to see other people succeed, which is awesome, because then, for me personally, I get more out of seeing other people's success than mine. And then I could take it a step further and be somewhat selfish with it and say that other people's success helps push me as well.
Absolutely.
So if I have 3 people that I'm lifting with and all 3 of them hit a PR on squat, well, it's okay, now I got to step up and I should hit this PR on squat. So the atmosphere definitely affects everything that you do. And I mean, how many times have we talked about it, and how many times have you heard people that are much more successful than us and know a lot more than us talk about the importance of surrounding yourself with good people?
Yep.
And sometimes it just takes time to identify who those people are and weed out ones.
And that was kind of where I got to. We've talked over numerous times over the last few months since my daughter's been born that I've been trying like heck to get back on track. And it's been hard. It's been tough. It's a learning process. So, but that was one of the things that I came to the conclusion of, is that I needed to, and I don't know. I needed to be back with the guys. I needed to be back in the gym for a while to refocus, because the last time when I left the gym and went back to a home gym setting, I killed it for a long time. And I think that was because I was on a good roll. And this time in the home gym, I started on a not even rolling. I was, I said I was going to start like I was before, and you have to kind of ease into that.
Yeah.
Or be plunged into it with the right, it's like taking the polar bear punch with the right people.
Well, I think there's something to be said too about when you work with other people. Not only is the atmosphere conducive to accomplishing what you want to accomplish when you have like-minded people around you.
Mm-hmm.
But then also there's a hidden sense of accountability there as well, even if it's not discussed.
Yeah.
Like my training partner Chad, when there's days where I don't feel like going to the gym, I don't vocalize that. I just think in my head, well, I got to go because Chad's there. And I'm sure that he kind of goes through the same thing occasionally. Well, Charlie's waiting for me, so I got to make sure that I show up. And it's not something that is, like I said, it's not overly talked about, at least with us, but you just know that if someone's there, you're going to be more likely to show up.
Yeah.
So over the past week, and I can't really say because I've never had a home gym or had another option or alternative where I could like lift solo or be at my home or whatever. But just hypothetically, let's say I did have that set up at home and I wasn't going to the gym. I wonder how many times I would have opted to sleep in and said, well, I could have, I don't think that it would be a lot, but I'm sure that it would be more than I'm doing now.
Right. Absolutely. And it I didn't think it would be a lot either. Because no matter what time it was, I could always go downstairs and do something.
And isn't it kind of ironic that you think that that's going to allow you to be so much more consistent, and then ironically it actually is the opposite. It makes you more inconsistent.
I think the reason is I'm so like schedule oriented. Like I like to plan. And whenever that I took the planning part out because I don't need to at home. It completely throws up my my whole flow of things. So
I had the same thing. Just the other day, I went to eat with a friend of mine, and so I asked him if he wanted to go grab a bite to eat and catch up on some things, and he said yes. Well, prior to that, after that, probably a few hours, he got asked to go to eat with another group of friends who I'm mutual friends with as well, and he said, "No, I'm sorry, I already told Charlie I'd go eat with him tonight." And the other group of friends said, well, hey, just have him come with us. Like, just tell him to come here. And my buddy said to them, he said, well, you guys know Charlie. He's not a change plans or last minute alterations type of guy.
Yeah.
So like, and I just thought it was funny because I know that I'm like that. And it's interesting to see how your personality, other people interpret it like that too.
You know what I also think, because there's people that say the same kind of thing about me, and yet they still make plans with me. And why I say that is I think that makes you feel good because it makes me feel like obviously I'm of some kind of quality because they're okay with my quirks, and they're okay with my weird stuff. That they're still going to make plans and hang out with me or do things with me or go out of their way to take time out of their day to do things with me and my family.
Yeah, I think that's really important to consider is the fact that if you have people that are with you consistently, then they're obviously okay with your flaws. Maybe, I don't know if okay is the right word, but they tolerate them, I guess.
Right.
And that's the thing, like, for me, I always preach, like, self-awareness and making sure that you understand, like, know thyself.
Yeah.
And I know my weaknesses just as much as everybody else does. And it's really cool to see that people are okay being my friends still, even though there's certain, I don't know, maybe non-negotiables, you'd call it.
Yeah.
That, like, this is what I do, this is when I do it. If you don't want to do it this way, that's fine, but this is how I'm going to do things.
Yeah, and that's funny you brought the non-negotiables up because I've always had a list of non-negotiables since I started this thing, 3 years ago almost. And that was where one of the things that I was driving down the road the other day and I was thinking about, like, just life in general, just thinking about everything. And non-negotiables came to mind, and I'm like, so much for that. And instantly, like literally instantly, I pulled in my driveway and didn't even get out of my truck and texted you and said, hey man, you looking for another training partner? And that's where we're at right now because like I knew that I had to get back to my non-negotiables, my list, do my thing.
Yeah.
Because when I do my thing, everybody around me is happier because I'm happier. So here we are.
And it just goes back to knowing yourself, too. Yeah. Understanding
absolutely
not only what works, but what doesn't work. And when you look at both of those and say, okay, this is not working, but I know what does work, then just comes the fortitude or the work ethic or the dedication or whatever you want to use to just be able to do it.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, we've talked about it with diet before, that I think that most people know what they're supposed to be doing. They can just...
It's a matter of doing it.
A lot of people rationalize in their head why they're not doing it. Say, well, I have this or I have that or... I should be doing this, and it frustrates me because I feel like I can, because what we all do, even if it's subconsciously, we compare our situations to other people's.
Yep.
Like we always think that we're the most busy. We always think that we have the most hectic schedule. We always think that we're the only people that have financial issues or scheduling issues or work related issues or relationship issues or whatever. Whereas it's happening all over the place. And we almost use it kind of as like a competition to see whose life is more hectic. Well, I have this going on and I still make it to the gym. I think you just need to consider that everybody has those things. And it sounds overly cliche, but it's all about priorities.
Absolutely.
So if you prioritize the gym, and that's why, like, one thing that I do all the time too, just had a conversation about this yesterday, is doing things a certain way so then it mitigates excuses on other people's ends. So I ran into Jake yesterday at the gym, who is one of our training partners, who is sporadic in terms of lifting with us. He's always consistent at the gym,
right,
but he's sporadic with us because of his work schedule.
Right.
So I ran into him yesterday, and I said, hey, do you want to lift tomorrow morning and train with us? And he said, yeah. He said, what time? And I said, 4:30. Now, keep in mind, providing context, the gym doesn't open until 6.
Yeah.
So I'll go in an hour and a half early, open it up, and we'll get our session in before everybody gets there. And I said, yeah, we'll go in at 4:30. And he said, why so early? And I said, well, there's two reasons. Number one, because I can and no one else is, which makes me feel better about myself. And number two, it eliminates all potential excuses that people could use.
Yep.
I said, when I say 10, I'll have people text me and say, oh, I can't make it at 10 because I got this. If I say 8, if I say 1 p.m., if I say 5 in the evening, it doesn't matter what time I say. Almost inevitably, you're going to get excuses from people. When I tell people 4:30, there's no excuse on why they can't be there.
Yeah.
So I purposefully do that so that way I can see who's legitimate and who's not, and who actually cares about getting better and who doesn't. Because part of it, too, and Chad and I talk about this all the time, is part of it, too, is who wants me to get better?
Yeah.
Like, if you're not going to be there for, like, me, then I don't want you there.
Yeah, because it's a give and take. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you're giving, whenever somebody gets the opportunity to work out with somebody like yourself, especially,
yeah,
you know, you have such a vast knowledge base.
I appreciate that you say the opportunity, but
it's true. Like, you know what I mean? Because, like, there's a list of people that want to. So, like, the fact that you get to find that some of us find ourselves on the short list it's awesome, because that means that we all want the same things.
Mm-hmm.
We all look different. We all do different things. We're all of different ages and all of different abilities, but we all have one common goal, and that is to move forward.
Well, I know that I've told this story on the podcast before, I'm sure, but to tell it again for people that haven't heard it, I don't want to say my ex-trading partner, because he and I still live together occasionally, but again, it's a situation of life circumstance where his job doesn't allow him to be trading with me with regularity right now because his shift changed and stuff. But my buddy Christian had come up to me before we were really friends. We were just kind of acquaintances, like, hi, that sort of thing. He's a younger guy. He's 24 now, I believe, just turned 24 yesterday, if I'm not mistaken. And he came up to me probably about 2 years ago now, roughly, maybe a little bit longer than that, I'm not really sure, and said that he wanted some training advice and some nutrition advice and all this stuff. And at the time, my online coaching hadn't really gotten to the point where it is now, and that wasn't that it was failing or anything. I just didn't pursue it like I pursue it now. And I told him, I said, hey, I'll cut you a deal, because he was, at the time, was a college kid, didn't have money, and I said, I will train you for free, because he wanted to compete down the road. And truthfully told him, we're a little bit of ways from that. I don't think you're ready for that right now. We will go through kind of a building process, and then we'll kind of revisit in a year or so, and then maybe cut down for a show or see what we can do. So I had this open discussion with him, and I told him that all I want from you is I want you to be my training partner. So, but here's, because he knows what he's doing in a gym setting. He just wanted some guidance outside of the gym. So again, nutrition, supplementation, bodybuilding specific things too, because he wanted to compete and didn't know much about it, like the posing, all that stuff. Said, listen, buddy, I'll do everything full go with you. I just need you to be my training partner. And then I went into, again, the non-negotiables about that. Like, listen, what we're going to do is you're not just going to come in and you're going to lift weights with me. Like, you're going to be pushing me in my face in between sets. I don't want you going over and getting a drink. I don't want you walking around and BSing with other people. If we're squatting, when your set's over and I start setting up in squat rack, you don't leave the squat rack. I need you there, and I need you pushing me, and I want accountability. And I don't care if you have to scream at me and call me names. Just push me.
Yeah.
And throughout our time training consistently together, there were times when that needed addressed. Sometimes I needed to address it, and I'll use this term because I don't really know of another term to use, but it was probably a little bit more significant. But I had to firmly address that this is what the deal is.
Yeah.
And if you can't live up to your end of the deal, that's fine. But then I'm going to need to go elsewhere, in which case you're not going to receive training services. And it wasn't a selfish move. It was just, hey, if you place high value on my services and want my advice and my guidance and my coaching. I place high value on somebody that's going to try to make me better. And right now, you're not living up to that end. And he and I have talked about that several times. And I know that I fall in the same boat. There's times when I'm not the best training partner in that regard. And I need to refocus myself to trying to get other people motivated. So it was just an instance that I thought was worth mentioning.
Oh, I agree.
And you have to go back to those non-negotiables. Like, if I want you to do this for me, you need to do this for me.
Yeah. And then, the non-negotiables are just what they are, non-negotiable. And whenever you waver from them, you have to find your way back to them.
And I think that life is kind of a never-ending process of trying to find out what those are.
Yeah.
It's not a consistent, hey, this is, because your morals and your ethics and the person that you are remains somewhat consistent, but there's constant evolution of that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like the evolution of man.
Yeah.
Like the chart, that's how I feel in regards to like what I believe in, what I feels, what I'm convicted with. And I just think that it's the same thing with what you hold value to, with your non-negotiables. Like 5 years ago, you never would have said, but heck, 2 years ago, you never would have said that. I don't want to, I say this out of respect to your wife. I don't want to say that you don't have value of family, but family in the terms of having a child.
Yeah.
Because that wasn't a priority for you because you didn't have one.
Right.
So that would have never been something on the hierarchy pyramid of like things that you need to address. Whereas now, ever since her birthday, ever since she was born, she goes to the top of the pyramid. And that's priority number one. So I think that life is a constant restructuring of priorities and a hierarchy, and your hierarchy determines what your non-negotiables are. So it's okay that you're... See, that's where people have to understand the difference, I think, is understanding it's okay when your non-negotiables change, but it's hard to identify, at least for me, it's difficult to identify if my non-negotiables are actually changing or if I'm just not keeping high importance to them, But, I mean, that's really everything in life, and I know we say this all the time, that just there's never definitive answers, and it's constantly... Again, let's go back to it, the point of the podcast, right? Mm-hmm. Trying to figure out life. That's why we do this. Yeah. We try to figure out what we're doing, and it provides accountability for us and all that good stuff. Hey, so let's go to a quick commercial break, and we'll talk more when we come back. As listeners of the Chasing Dreams podcast, we know that you demand the highest quality at all times. If you're interested in quality, look no further than Beast Mode Baking. Beast Mode Baking aims to bring the highest quality, creative, and of course delicious baked goods to your home with nationwide shipping. All orders need to be pre-ordered to ensure they're packed fresh and shipped out to you as soon as possible. Beast Mode Baking offers a flat rate of $15 for shipping due to the size and weight of the cookies and doughs. So if you're interested in Beast Mode Baking, please contact CEO Shannon Knorr. That's at SKNORR13 on Instagram and order your delicious baked goods today, because every time you support them, you're supporting the podcast as well. And we're back from our commercial break. All right, so prior to the break, we were talking about non-negotiables and things that we need to have a little bit of self-accountability for,
right,
and staying true to yourself, essentially, was the overall message. And thinking back, because we started with some quick updates about our training and everything, and I think that it's really important to not gloss over this, because it would be a pretty cool topic, at least something that I feel like I need a little bit of accountability for, that I could improve in a little bit myself, is pride and ego.
Yeah.
So to provide some context, because I don't really know exactly how much was divulged on the podcast over the
None.
years, and you had a little bit of a unfortunate exodus from our gym due to an argument.
Yeah.
And I was privy to the argument from both sides, which seemed eerily similar between the owner and yourself. And it was one of those instances where the story seemed very similar, but the interpretation was a little bit different or
Yeah.
skewed. And both sides think they're right. Now, without getting into specifics of that or the specifics of any argument or disagreement or communication error, for example, I think the overreaching message is that you went back and said to the owner of the gym that you would want to come back despite the differences in the arguments that were held. And that was accepted after a discussion, and you're back.
Yeah.
And I think that that's one of the hardest things to do. It's not conceding in a sense, but conceding in a situation where you are 100% convicted that you're right. It's because situations like that are difficult. Like, it's hard enough if you get into an argument with someone. Like, your argument was an instance where both people truly, vehemently are convicted that they were right.
Right.
And those are the ones that often then sour. Because if I get into an argument with someone, it's hard enough for me to admit when I'm wrong when I'm proven I'm wrong. So I get proven that it was my fault. And it's very, very difficult or a tough pill to swallow to go up to that person and say, you know what? I thought about this, ruminated on it for a little bit. I was definitely at fault here. I apologize. That was my mistake. That's
Right.
tough to do. It's even tougher when you don't think that you're wrong.
Right.
Because how do you approach that? Do you say you're sorry? Because sometimes I don't think that that's the right answer, believe it or not, because you shouldn't apologize for people for things that you don't truly believe you're at fault for.
Exactly.
Because you're not sorry.
Yeah.
What you're doing is you're
using
just
words.
Yeah, you're using words to try to kind of give the facade of how you feel, even though you don't truly feel sorry.
Right.
You don't feel apologetic for that instance.
Exactly.
So I think that it was just worth bringing up about how you talked to me and said, I need to swallow my pride and my ego and just say, hey, we had this disagreement. I'm coming back because it's best for me, even if that's putting money in your pocket or even if that's helping you out a little bit. Because and what I think it does is you could say it's a testament to your character, but I also think that it's a testament to a couple things in specific to your character. Number one, how much you want to get better because you made this move for yourself, and then relationships too, where you made this move that's going to benefit other people.
Yeah.
Like having consistent training partners, giving Chad and I a third consistent training partner. So things like that, I think that there's a lot of benefit. And then you could get psychoanalytical with it and say that there's a lot of people at the gym that you inspired during your time there, and now maybe you can reconnect with those people and give them inspiration. So overall, it's great that you're back there, and I think that it was cool for both of you guys to, at least to some degree, squash the beef.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now,
and I think we're good.
Yeah.
So my interpretation of the whole thing is pretty simple, actually. The more I thought about it and the more I'm thinking about it over and over and over again and replaying everything, the whole, like you said, without getting into the specific details, was literally a misunderstanding. What happened, and it was a misunderstanding on both parts.
Mm-hmm.
But the major misunderstanding was on my part. I didn't give the opportunity the opportunity wasn't provided for like a conversation to ensue. So that's where I misunderstood how it went down.
I think that it's hard for me to kind of put myself in these situations sometimes because I've been there. But the thing about me is I don't want to say a quick switch because it's not like I flow like just will like fly off the handle or anything like that. I feel like I have a pretty decent degree of patience, and my fuse is relatively long, I think. But one thing that I do is if it is perceived that I have a quick switch, I also have a quick switch back.
Yeah.
So I can yell at someone, and I tell this to my kids all the time at school, where I can get mad and be very aggressive and firm with them about something that they need to fix, whether it's their behavior or something, and oftentimes, unfortunately, teaching young kids that results in tears. And then there's a little bit of a healthy dose of fear that kind of lingers for the rest of the day, where they still think, oh, is he still mad at me? And I tell them, I wasn't mad at you when we walked back into the classroom after I addressed it in the hallway. Because after I addressed it, it's done. And I think that sometimes being so flippant like that, I don't know if that's the right word, but being so hot and cold like that catches people off guard.
Right.
But it's not, it's I think that it's kind of funny because it could be looked at as I don't know how to control my emotions. Like, oh, like he just flies off and he's angry. Well, then all of a sudden he's cool, and that's lack of control. Whereas I think it's actually the opposite.
I think it's way of the opposite.
I know what needs addressed, when it needs addressed, and then after it's addressed, okay, we're cool.
Yeah, because it's not that you're mad.
Yeah.
You're using the elevation of your voice or the assertiveness of your position to address an issue. And then once it's over, you're not mad at the person. You have to address issues as they come up. If you don't, things get out of control.
Yeah, because I don't think that I ever address or have, I don't really, gosh, rarely do I ever have issues to address that I am mad about. Because it's not like it affects me.
I try not to allow myself to get mad. That's why this whole issue bothered me.
Yeah.
Because I did get mad.
Mm-hmm.
And then I kept being mad.
And then you almost feel, at least I do, in situations where I do get mad or situations where I am irrational, then I continue to stay mad because it's almost at myself that I'm allowing myself to get like this. Like, why did you allow this issue to happen?
Right.
Why did you allow yourself to put yourself in this position?
Exactly.
This should be a non-issue, and you're letting it fester and become an issue.
Yeah, and it to me, it's like I'm a guy who, when I read Jocko Willink's books, Extreme Ownership and the rest of his books, I really bought into that mindset and started to study it. But how are you excuse me, how am I supposed to say that I study extreme ownership and I think that way and I use that, and then I'm holding a grudge over a legitimate misunderstanding?
Yeah.
So, and that was one of the things that I thought about, and I'm like, you know what? Even if somewhere small inside I think that maybe he had any fault at all in that, no, check. Because I could have changed the outcome by just having a conversation.
And here's the thing, though, is I'm going to take the other side of that coin. When you talk about extreme ownership, extreme accountability, the things that Jocko stands for, and I had this conversation with a few close friends of mine a couple weeks ago where we were talking about that, and I kind of play devil's advocate because that's like the big thing in the motivational speaking world right now that Jocko's a pretty prevalent part of, is the extreme ownership, which is, I think is it extreme ownership, extreme accountability, like that whole thing.
Yeah.
I feel like that gets too casually used and
Absolutely.
misinterpreted. So I know so many people that use that, and they reference it.
They reference it, but they don't use it as a technique or
a
lifestyle.
See, the issue that I'm encountering is people reference it and use it, but they don't truly believe it. They just use it for everything.
That's my point.
They'll just say, "Oh well, yeah, that's
my fault.
This is my fault. This one's on me." Jocko, extreme accountability. And again, it's like you alluded to earlier. You're using words. You don't actually feel like this is your fault. If you don't feel like this is your fault, and it's not, people misinterpret it too in the sense that it's an apologetic type thing.
Yeah.
Like, hey, this is my fault. I need to. You don't need to continue to apologize. You need to fix if you truly believe there's an issue. True accountability is just going in and fixing it. My dad used to say that to me all the time. He would say, every time I would say sorry, like if I got in trouble or whatever, anytime I would say sorry, my dad would always respond with don't say sorry or don't be sorry, just don't let it happen again.
Yeah.
Because people that say sorry and they continuously do the same thing. You run into that issue with fifth graders at school all the time, where I constantly am saying, this issue happens and you tell me sorry and this issue continues to happen. So you're not sorry, you don't care, and you don't have remorse for this action or not doing your homework or whatever it is. So I think that the ultimate accountability, it's like the proverbial too much of a good thing can be a bad thing, where I think that people use that too loosely and don't really understand what it means and how to implement it.
Yeah.
They just think, oh, I just blame myself for everything in all these instances, and it makes it look like I have good accountability and I'm a good person. But true people with a more firm grasp on what that means kind
Can
of
see
can
right
see
through
through
that.
that and be like, no, you actually don't believe this is your fault. You just are saying that because you think you're supposed to say it.
Yeah, it's wild when you do talk to people like that because you can hear them. Like you can hear them say, "Well, even though he did this and that,
Yeah.
I'm gonna take that one on the chin. Yeah, that's on me.
Yeah, if you
You
don't,
know,
if it's
and it's
really your
like,
fault, you don't have to annotate it and
yeah,
with that proceeding. Oh well, he did this, but
yeah,
no, you should just say whatever it is that you're going to fix and why you're going to fix it
right.
and how you're going to fix it.
A lot of times, like with what I've found with extreme ownership is if you go and if you actually are practicing extreme ownership and you messed up at work and you go into your boss's office and say, honestly, the outcome is I should be fired.
Yeah.
Like that, I should not have a job anymore because I messed up. But this is what I plan to do to fix it.
Mm-hmm.
This is how I'm not going to keep messing up.
Yep.
That's extreme ownership.
And yeah, for sure. And I think that the other message that you can kind of associate with this is just not saying things. Don't say things that you're not or that you're quote supposed to say if you don't believe them.
Right.
And that's one thing that I've been pretty firm on. Like when people, like if I truly believe that I'm right in an altercation, I'm not going to apologize to the person. Or my apology may be worded in a specific way where I tell this person, I'm sorry that you interpreted it this way. Or I'm sorry if I wasn't clear. But I'm not going to, like, if I say something that I have true conviction for and that person gets upset, I don't care if they get upset because they needed to hear that and it upset me. So maybe you need that feeling of upsetness or whatever it is,
Right.
like maybe you need to hear that. So like this may not be a specifically a good example, but it just pops in my head. It's like people, I see this all the time where people will get pulled over and get a speeding ticket and they start thanking the cop when the cop gives them a ticket. Like when a cop gives me a ticket, obviously I'm polite and very respectful and I have a multitude of friends. Some of my best friends are police officers and I respect our police force as much, if not more, than anybody in this world. But when they give me a ticket, I'm not going to say thank you.
Right.
And it's funny instances like that, but you see it a lot where people will say sorry, again, because they're supposed to say sorry, but they're not truly sorry. And I just don't think that that's a good way to live. It's not a good way to live life. Like, think about the words that you're using. Don't say things that you don't believe.
Yeah, have value in the things that you stand by.
Well, so then if you're talking about value above your words, it finds its way back to self-respect.
Yeah.
Have enough self-respect to not say things that you don't believe.
I agree.
Like if you are convicted as a person and you truly say, this is what I believe in, these are my morals, my ethics, and my ideologies, again, working full circle, these are my non-negotiables. This is how I operate.
Yep.
And I think that, to be fair, everything in your life, if you're able to get to this point, which I have not mastered, and I don't know if I'll ever master it, everything in your life should be a non-negotiable. Why would you waste time doing things that aren't non-negotiables? Like, I think about everything that I do. I go to work every day. I go to school every day. So differentiate there. Work at the gym, work at school, and I train. And like, those are the things that I do every day. Those are the non-negotiables. I don't have time. Like, often I'll get asked, hey, did you see this on Netflix? Or have you seen this TV show yet? And I watch sporting events, and I'm not saying I've never watched Netflix because I will watch some seasons of certain things from time to time, but it's very, very sparingly.
Yeah.
Like, it's far and few between. And for example, when I was sick a couple weeks ago, I was at home for 2 days, so I did watch a little bit of Netflix. More so because I was too ill to do much of anything else, anything productive for that matter. But it's like, I don't have time to do this stuff. I don't have time to watch TV because that's not productive to me, and that's not really a non-negotiable. And anytime I spend time doing something like that, I'm not spending time truly valuing my non-negotiables.
I agree.
And I think that there's a point for relaxation, but that in and of itself should be a non-negotiable, that I need to have relaxation time, therapy time, whatever it is. So I just think that it's interesting how the conversation ultimately works its way back full circle, talking about non-negotiables.
I think that's why that this is so easy anymore. is because we always come, we naturally come back to our roots,
Mm-hmm.
so to speak.
Yeah, things that we believe in and
Yeah.
stuff like that. And maybe that's a good place to give a challenge to the listeners is truly identify what your non-negotiables are.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. Don't identify what you want your non-negotiables to be. That's the key.
Yeah.
Because people say, oh, well, my top priority is my family. Well, you know what? Your actions speak differently. Or, oh, well, my top priority is the gym. That's the one that I deal with all the time.
Yeah.
People tell me they'll do whatever it takes to be good, but they won't even drink their water like they should.
Yeah.
Little nuance like that. It's like, come on, buddy.
Yeah.
Don't tell me you're going to do whatever it takes because you won't. And I know that, and your actions speak louder than your words do. So don't identify when you're going through this. Like if you spend time today, which would be awesome if people are listening to this and they kind of find some alone time or some downtime to sit back and truly analyze and think, be introspective and think, all right, well, I'm going to reflect for a little bit. What do I identify as my hierarchy? What do I identify as the things in my life that I will not change no matter what? Those are my non-negotiables. Don't identify what you want them to be. Identify what they are. Or maybe do this. Maybe do both. Identify what you want them to be and identify why they're what you want them to be and not why are those things not what they are.
Right.
You
and
know,
then
like,
make it happen.
Like if you want to be a bodybuilder and you're not, or you don't look like one,
yeah,
bodybuilding isn't a non-negotiable for you.
Yeah.
You may think that it is, and you may tell people it is, but it's really not. So look back and say, why is this not a non-negotiable?
Right.
And I could say that about myself with bodybuilding. Right now in my life, bodybuilding is not a non-negotiable. It's something that I work at every day. I train hard every day. I eat well every day, but it's not 100% all in. I'm as all in as I can be, right, while still allocating time and effort to everything else that I'm invested in.
While still achieving your non-negotiables.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
On a daily basis.
I think that's a great place to end it. So, listener challenge, go through, identify what your non-negotiables are, and also spend some time thinking about what you want your non-negotiables to be.
Yeah.
And then from there, just like everything we preach, it's time to install the action plan.
Yeah.
So
let's
to speak.
go.
All right. So with that, we have come to the end of another episode of the Chasing Dreams podcast with Charlie and Justin. This has been episode 107. We appreciate your listenership, and we look forward to hearing back from you guys next week. Unbreakable, unstoppable, I'm pushed to the edge.